Hello, good people of YouTube. Sealord here, and today a bit of a follow-up video to a video I made a few months ago looking at the Russian version of the game and our version of the game. So for those of you that don't know, a very brief summary is that after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Wargaming made the decision to leave Russia and Belarus altogether, and those two countries were home to two of their larger offices, the Minsk office, which is actually the office where Wargaming started, and the St. Petersburg office, which was the office that was developing World of Warships, and there's also a Moscow office in there as well. So when that decision was made, Wargaming put out a statement saying that they were leaving Russia and Belarus, and their versions of those games, of World of Tanks, World of Warships, World of Warplanes, were now going to be managed by Lesta Studios, which is a game studio that Wargaming bought all the way back in the day and had developed World of Warships. That was St. Petersburg. Wargaming St. Petersburg. They were letting that office go, and they were now in charge of developing their properties in Russia and Belarus and running the servers and all that jazz over there. So that happened all the way at the beginning of the year, end of the previous year. So I took a look back in June, and I looked at the Russian website for what is now World of Ships. It's not World of Warships anymore, it's just World of Ships. And you can go watch that video. I'll go into, of course, great detail there, comparing the two websites and such. And on the surface, it looks like they simply just changed a couple of things around. There's obviously different collaboration events going on with the European, North American, and Asian versions of the game compared to the Russian version of the game now. And besides that, a couple of, again, name switches here and there, like the armory is called something different. All the usual names have been tweaked to something slightly different, and a couple of differences with the videos. Oh yeah, they still have Dasha, by the way. They have Dasha still, which is very sad. But anyway, besides that, it looks like it's a pretty similar game. However, there have been some developments this week that I think we are beyond the point of being able to safely say that, yeah, the games are really starting to go in separate ways. I ended that video saying, well, it looks like they are, for all legal intents and purposes, there are two separate games. But they were still getting the same ships, the same updates, a lot of the same camos and such. There's maybe one or two things that the Russian version of the game would get, like there are particular to Russian and Belarusian holidays, that we wouldn't get on the main version of the game. But again, they're getting the same new tech lines we're getting, the same premiums that we're getting. It's just a separate game, quote unquote. But this week, there's been a couple of announced changes that we have heard nothing about over here. Now, you might be saying, well, Sealord, time zones are different, so surely they might get it a day or two early, and we'll get it, a couple of days later. Well, you could argue that, because if you want to know what's coming out on Friday, and you're in any other region, just hop on over to the Asian servers. They get the first look at what's coming out on Fridays, which is typically when a lot of new premium ships or events go live. You'll see on the subreddit, someone will post, oh, look, on the Asian servers, this event's live, or this ship's for sale, so you get a bit of a sneak peek as to what's coming on Friday. But as far as the dev blogs and such go, which is what we're going to be looking at, that's all usually released at the same time. And when this video goes up, and knowing my luck, I'll put this video up and Wargaming will just shove out this dev blog if the games are still connected. It's usually all at once. So let's look at what's happening. So this is the one that got my attention. There's apparently been one or two more that came out a couple of days before this, but this is the one that grabbed my attention the most. So on the Russian dev blog of the game, which I looked and dredged for a link, but I couldn't find a link to the Russian dev blog. I had one earlier on my phone, but I couldn't dig through my phone's history far enough to find it. I don't know what happened to it. It went down a black hole, I guess. So they say various improvements. Now the visibility of the ship interaction. Oh man, and this is like straight like Google Translate, so it's going to be rougher than normal. Now the visibility of the ship interacts with the firing secondary armament in the same way as with the main battery. A shot from the secondary armament increases the visibility of the ship up to the firing range of the secondary armament. Added the spotlight after firing a secondary battery parameter to the menu, accessible by pressing the H key. Honestly, it's not too bad for as far as the translation goes. So, you heard that right. On the Russian version of the game, secondary guns now increase your ship's visibility according to the translation here in the same manner as the main guns. Meaning that when your secondaries fire, your detection range will start to bloom out. I'm kind of assuming that's also going to apply in smoke screens, because when you fire your main battery guns in smoke, your detection range goes out. Now, it's only up to the firing range of your secondary armament. So if you have a GK and you're sitting in smoke and your secondaries start firing on a DD that's spotted outside of smoke, it's only going to spot you out to 12.5 kilometers. Now, of course, that means that anything in 12.5 kilometers is going to spot you, then everyone else is going to see you. So, I mean, again, this is just on the Russian version of the game as of right now, because we have not gotten this devblog yet. And again, by the time this video goes up, I think it's almost a full work week since this one has been released for the Russian version of the game. There's an earlier one too with some changes to Kitakami and Shill, which we haven't seen, and that one I believe is almost a full week from release on the Russian devblog, and we haven't seen it yet. So this is confirmation that these are two different games that aren't being developed by the exact same team. Now, again, obviously, from what we've seen, again, you can go to the Russian Games website, and I'll link that down below. They are sharing things like artwork, 3D models, and the general foundations of the updates, obviously. But it looks like the Russian dev team, Lesta, they're making their own changes to the game. Now, I suspect that this may have to do with the upcoming support CVs with the airdrop smoke screens. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more smoke screens out there, and it's going to be a lot easier to smoke ships up using planes, so maybe it's something to deal with that, and Lesta thinks it's kind of a primitive action. Will we see a version of this appear on the North American, EU, and Asian servers? Maybe so. I don't think it's really that huge of a deal. And in fact, if this would come out on our servers, it'd be a pretty big nerf to Napoli and the Giuseppe Verde. I mean, shoot, that's Napoli's whole shtick, is that she can pop her smoke generator and push with her spotter plane and have her secondaries absolutely tear into you while she's pushing. And again, Giuseppe Verde, the battleship-sized smoke screen with angry sap secondaries that for some reason no one dares notice when it starts pushing down a flank. Really funny how you have players that just ignore a battleship-sized smoke screen pushing toward them. But yeah, that would obviously be a big nerf to those ships, because that's the whole thing. And that's might be why the devs on our side are like, nah, we don't think this is really necessary. And again, it's like 2 ships that this really affects at the moment. But again, when we see the aerial smoke screens come out, it might be something different. So now again, this could be something that the Russian devs, they just pushed out before our devs have really decided whether or not they want to do it. And again, this is in testing. These are dev blogs, right? Dev blog stuff, it gets announced, it gets wildly changed, 7 out of 10 times. Very rarely does anything get through a dev blog announcement to its full release in its original form. Remember, the Russian battleships had radar that could go out to like 15 kilometers but could only detect battleships and carriers. That didn't make it to the game. So this could just be something that the Russian devs are testing out and are announcing it for some reason on the Russian dev blog to their community, whereas our devs might just be still testing it in-house with super testers and such, and we don't know about it just yet. It wouldn't surprise me that it might be something like that, but again, until we hear from our dev blog that this is happening, we don't know if that's the case, and it looks like right now they are, again, becoming two separate games, and that's kind of what I ended the video on in June. I said, for now it looks like they're pretty much lockstep with what's going on, except for some, regional events, but, it takes time to separate 2 legal entities like that. Lesta developed World of Warships for its entirety until a few months ago, and you can't just say, okay, you develop World of Warships now, we're leaving you guys behind, and then have a bunch of devs that have no idea what they're doing. You can't just do that. That's not feasible business-wise or just practically either. So over time, I suspect we're going to start to see more and more changes like this, to where eventually they may be two very, very different games by, who knows, next year. I also said that the other option would be that they're just going to keep releasing the games and, I'm sorry, the updates, and they're going to be pretty much the same, except for, again, for some regional events and such. And eventually, once the whole Russian-Ukrainian war ends, they're probably going to merge back into one entity. That's what I thought was most likely up until now. So, who knows now? They might be two separate things for the rest of the game's life. Game's life, plural, you know. Unless they, you know, whenever that conflict does come to an end, Wargaming might just buy Lesta back and, who knows, make some pretty big changes depending upon what year it is by the time all this is done and over with. But yeah, so let me know what you guys think down below. I just want to get you guys' opinion on this, looking at the video I did two or 3 months ago, and what we have now with this recent bit of information out. So again, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a wonderful Wednesday. If you did enjoy, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 50,000 subs, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Hope you guys have a wonderful Wednesday, wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.